Beginning September 1st, 1939, 2 days after the invasion of Poland, Great Britain and France declared war on Germany. The League of Nations had been practicing an appeasement policy, doing nothing to stop strong nations' aggression towards smaller countries. These aggression powers were Italy, which was ruled by Mussolini, and Germany, ruled by Hitler.
November 4th, 1939, the U.S. passed the Neutrality Act. This act allowed other countries to get war materials from the U.S., but they had to transport them themselves and pay cash. September 16, 1940, Congress passed the Selective Service Act. This allowed men over age 18 to be drafted into the military. This was an example of being prepared for the war that was about to come. November 5, 1940, FDR was elected to a third term, the first president ever to do so. He was sick and growing old, but he knew he'd be the best person to lead America during this war. During the time, most Americans were isolationists, meaning that they didn't want to get involved in other countries' affairs. This was due to the losses in World War I, and many thinking it was so useless to lose so many American lives. Franklin Roosevelt also wanted to stay out of the war due to the nation's wide ethnic diversity. December 7, 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, a major naval base in the Pacific. After the U.S. placed an embargo on Japan, the Japanese wanted revenge and decided to bomb Pearl Harbor as revenge and to discourage Americans from joining the war. This strategy did not work, and it only caused Americans to want to join the war even more. There was so much confusion during this event. The Americans didn't even know who was attacking them. As a result, hundreds of American lives were lost, bases, ships, and more.
On December 8, 1941, one day after the Pearl Harbor attacks, FDR signed a declaration of war against Japan. As a result, Germany then declared war on the U.S.
On December 22, 1941, after weeks of trying to hold his position on the Philippines, the Japanese did a full-out attack on Douglas MacArthur and his troops. MacArthur then tried to position his forces to rebel against the Japanese invasion, but he very badly miscalculated the power of the Japanese army and they were forced to retreat. Douglas MacArthur then evacuated to Australia, but the rest of his troops stayed there and suffered. They held out till early May, and then eventually the 75,000 Allied soldiers surrendered and Japanese troops took them as prisoners of war. They had to march 55 miles up the Bataan Peninsula to reach the inland. Thousands died. June 4, 1942, Battle of Midway. A major turning point in the war, the Allies sunk 4 aircraft carriers of Japan. This led to Japan now being on the defensive side of the war. September 3, 1943, Italy surrenders to the Allies in Sicily under the direction of Supreme Commander Eisenhower. Mussolini, the dictator of Italy, was captured and executed. June 6, 1944, D-Day. The Allies' plan of conquering Berlin, Germany's capital, was coming true, as 11,000 soldiers and troops stormed the beaches, attempting to take over their defenses. August 6, 1945, U.S. uses an atomic bomb. This was the first atomic bomb used on Hiroshima, and 70,000 people were instantly killed using Little Boy. This was essentially the end of the war, and the Allies had won. On September 2, 1945, Japan surrendered aboard the USS Missouri.